Ever get that feeling like your body is like working against you when you're trying to lose weight?
Yeah.
It's almost like resisting your efforts. Look, you might not be imagining things.
Right.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into this fascinating article from Nature called Fat Cells Remember, the Challenge of Weight Loss.
Wow.
Get ready for a wild ride because this research could totally change the way we think about weight management.
It really could. And it all comes down to this fascinating concept called the epigenome. You can kind of think of it as a complex control panel with tiny switches that can turn your genes on or off. And this research is suggesting that these switches, and therefore the activity of our genes, might be influenced by past experiences, like a period of obesity.
Hold on. So even if I lose weight, my fat cells could still be acting like I'm heavier than I am.
Yeah.
How does that work?
That's exactly what this study is hinting at. They compared a group of people who had severe obesity to a control group who had never experienced obesity.
Yeah.
And they found some pretty startling differences in the activity of genes within their fat cells.
So even if you lose the weight, your fat cells might still be stuck in this obesity mode.
It's possible, and that's not all. The truly mind-blowing part is that these changes persisted even after weight loss surgery.
Really?
It's like the fat cells retained a memory of the previous state of obesity,
Wow.
even though the individuals were no longer obese.
Wait, so even after weight loss surgery, their bodies were still acting like they were heavier.
It seems that way.
No wonder it can be so hard for some people to keep the weight off.
Right, and it's not just a human phenomenon either. They saw very similar results in mice studies, too.
Oh, really?
Even after the mice slimmed down, their fat cells were just gobbling up sugar and fat.
Wow.
Much faster than those of mice who had never been obese, and they gained weight way quicker on a high-fat diet.
Okay.
It was like their bodies were almost programmed to regain the weight.
That's pretty unsettling. So what's actually happening at the cellular level to cause this? The article mentions inflammation and fibrosis playing a role here. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Essentially, they found that certain genes related to inflammation and fibrosis
Okay.
were more active in the fat cells of the individuals who had experienced obesity. Inflammation, as you might know, is our body's natural response to injury or infection.
Right.
But chronic, low-grade inflammation can become a problem.
Yeah.
Fibrosis, on the other hand, is kind of like scarring.
Okay.
It's the buildup of tough, fibrous tissue, and it can actually interfere with the normal function of the tissue, in this case, the fat tissue.
So you're saying that these changes in gene activity, which are linked to that epigenome control panel we talked about earlier, could be causing the fat cells to become inflamed and scarred.
That's right.
And that's what's making it harder for them to function properly.
Yeah.
This is getting really complex.
It is complex, but stick with me. Here's where it gets really interesting. Remember how we talked about those epigenetic switches that can turn genes on or off?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that those switches can be flipped by various factors,
Okay.
including things like diet and lifestyle. And once they're flipped, they can sometimes stay that way for a while, even if the original trigger is gone.
So even if someone makes positive changes to their diet and lifestyle, their fat cells might still be stuck in this unhealthy pattern.
Right.
Because of these lingering epigenetic changes. That's a tough break.
It is, but there's also a glimmer of hope here. While these epigenetic changes can be persistent, they're not necessarily permanent.
Yeah.
More research is needed, but some studies suggest there might be a window of opportunity where these changes could be reversed.
Okay, that's a bit reassuring.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that those switches could be flipped back to a healthier setting.
Exactly, and that opens up some really exciting possibilities for future treatments. Imagine therapies that could target these specific epigenetic changes and essentially reset the fat cells, making it easier to maintain a healthy weight long term.
Wow, that sounds almost like science fiction. But I can see how this research could really revolutionize the way we approach weight loss. It's not just about willpower and calories anymore.
Right.
It's about understanding the complex interplay between our genes and our environment.
Absolutely. And the implications go beyond just weight loss. This research could also help us understand other metabolic conditions like type 2 diabetes, which is often linked to obesity and insulin resistance.
Yeah.
If we can figure out how to manipulate these epigenetic switches, we might be able to develop new treatments for a whole range of diseases.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to ask, are there any downsides to this kind of research? I mean, tampering with our genes sounds a little risky, doesn't it?
It's definitely an area that requires careful consideration. If scientists figure out how to manipulate the epigenome, we need to make sure those therapies or safe and effective.
Right.
There's always the potential for unintended consequences when you're dealing with something as complex as the human body.
And what about the ethical implications? If we can manipulate genes related to weight, what's to stop people from using these technologies for purely cosmetic purposes?
You bring up a very important point. As with any powerful new technology, there's the potential for misuse.
Yeah.
It's crucial to have open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of this research before these therapies become widely available.
Right.
We need to establish clear guidelines and regulations to ensure that these technologies are used responsibly and ethically.
It sounds like we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible with this kind of research. Where do you see this field heading in the next few years?
I think we're on the cusp of a major breakthrough in our understanding of obesity and metabolic disease.
Mm.
As we delve deeper into the epigenome, we're likely to uncover even more surprises. And with those discoveries will come new opportunities for developing innovative treatments that could transform the lives of millions of people.
This deep dive has definitely given me a whole new perspective on the challenges of weight loss.
Yeah.
It's clear that it's not just about willpower or making better choices.
Right.
There are complex biological factors at play that can make it incredibly difficult to lose weight and keep it off.
You're absolutely right. And this research should give us all a greater sense of empathy for those who struggle with their weight.
Yeah.
It's not simply a matter of laziness or lack of discipline.
Yeah.
There are often underlying biological factors that make it a much harder battle than most people realize.
So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this area of research? What are scientists working on right now to unravel this fat cell memory mystery?
One of the most pressing questions is to figure out exactly how long this epigenetic memory lasts.
Okay.
Is it a few months, years, decades?
Wow.
Understanding the time frame could help us develop more effective interventions.
So it's a race against time to figure out how to reset those epigenetic switches before they become too entrenched.
Precisely. And researchers are also working on identifying the specific genes and molecular pathways involved in this process.
Okay.
The more we understand about the nuts and bolts of how this memory works, the better equipped we'll be to develop targeted therapies.
Right. This research has definitely thrown a wrench in the old calories in, calories out model of weight loss.
Indeed. It's clear that there are powerful biological forces at play that can make weight loss much more challenging than simply reducing calorie intake.
So to wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I think the most important message is that weight loss isn't always a simple equation of calories in versus calories out. There are powerful biological factors at work, like this memory effect in fat cells, that can make it much harder to lose weight and keep it off. This research reminds us to approach weight management with empathy and a deeper understanding of the complex interplay between our biology, our genes, and our environment.
That's a really powerful message, and it gives me a lot to think about. It's almost like we're on the verge of a paradigm shift in how we understand obesity and weight loss. What started as a deep dive into one research article has opened up a whole universe of questions and possibilities. Thanks for taking this journey with me. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.